this was a conversation I saw on Twitter just before we started getting, recording here. The question was, who is the ace of Stardom? I think the initial prompt was like, do you consider Julia to be an ace? And then just kind of evolved into who we think the ace is. So I don't know if you've given it a ton of, you haven't given it a ton of thought because I just sprung it on you right before the show started. But I'm gonna give it to you first because I haven't put a ton of thought into it either. But just kind of off the cuff, maybe we can work through who we think might qualify as that. So do we think there's just one ace at all times? Do we think it can be multiple? Is it fluid? What are your thoughts as far as that goes?
I think there are 4 names I'll listen to as the ace. Like if anyone, brings up a conversation, I think Mayu Iwatani, who I personally still think is the ace. It's hard for me to say otherwise. Utami Hayashishita, because she's just been this incredible world champion this year and she's really taken on the role as the center of that company. I think Sherry's a good shout. What she's doing, what she has been doing all year long. She's been a proving ground for a lot of wrestlers without being the world champion. I know she has the SWA title, but come on, let's be serious. That's not that big of a deal. But she's a proving ground for the likes of an Unagi Sayaka, still like someone like an Azumi, and even a Micah. Like her match, we just went over this at the 5-star. Those two went to a war, and Sherry has been the proving ground for a lot of people to try to beat. Sherry doesn't lose much, which is why I'm willing to call her an ace as well. And the other option was, I would say Julia definitely is in that conversation because of how much she's featured and how often she main events. She's always a centerpiece of the Stardom world. But that being said, I have a tough time swaying away from Mayu Iwatani until she officially retires, which hopefully is not anytime soon.
I think I have a similar valuation as you. A couple differences. I wouldn't put Siri in that conversation. She's only been officially signed with the company for actually less than a year at this point. So I think she's got a way to go, especially considering she hasn't won a top title yet. When you leave those last 3, I'm going to say, if we're talking about, when people think of an ace, they think of modern New Japan, they think of Tanahashi, and they think of Okada. And those are the 2, right? So I'm going to say Iwatani is the ace gimmick, if that makes sense. Kind of like Tanahashi is the ace gimmick in Japan, or in New Japan. Whereas Utami Hayashishita is the current ace of the company, their top star, their, and in a similar way to Okada is in New Japan. Julia, I would not say is the ace. I would say she's extremely popular to massive levels. She, to me, is Tetsuya Naito. In terms of extremely popularity, a really solid contrast and counterpart to the sort of sculpted from the ground up perfect pro wrestlers that are Mayu and Utami, right? So that's my evaluation of that question. I also maybe I'm burying myself here. I don't really think the question matters all that much. I think the ace, to be honest, I think the ace thing is a little bit of a misnomer, maybe a bit of a lost in translation thing, to the point where people have these conversations about Japanese professional wrestling companies and they're like, oh, well, who's the ace? Like in Noah, Kaito Kiyomiya is the quote unquote ace, but he hasn't been in any sort of real title picture for almost 2 years at this point. So, I would just say it along those lines, it doesn't matter because the company will push whoever they think is going to make them the most money. Yeah. Now, these extended top star pushes that give somebody this ace reputation are what make companies money. And so I think that's why they have that. But really the reality is it's just the top star is whoever's going to make you the most money right now. And right now that's Utami. And in the future, whoever makes you the most money is whoever that's going to be, whether that's Saya Kamatani, whether that's Shuri, whether that's Micah, whether that's, Hanan, whoever it's going to be. It will be interesting to look at as Stardom continues to hopefully grow.